Power to the peoples. We back at new maintenance. Yeah. We gonna rock. Just like Hal Hemp when he came in. I graduated out of high school in 1994. I see the kids graduating in 2022. That's a good thing, man. Now, what I hope is that y'all don't go down the wrong path. I hope that those teachers gave you a good a career day, telling you that it's a career out there for you besides being a drug dealer and a rapper. Okay? I hope that your endeavors become so strong that you overcome everything. Mm-hmm. Okay? I want you to be great in everything that you do. But let me tell you something. This is for all the peoples coming into the future of today's world. You're going to be all right. What I want you to do is take up real estate, man. That was my big mistake. Take up real estate, man. Okay, no matter how long it takes, no matter how long you think it is unbeneficial, whatever you think it is, get into real estate, B. The reason why I'm telling you that, because they didn't tell me that when I was coming up. They didn't tell us nothing when we was coming up. They wanted us to beat the quota. They wanted us to beat the goddamn, just get out of high school because we were some young urban kids in America who had to meet the quota for a principal who was in a bad school in a bad area, neighborhood of Bed-Stuy. I graduated with high honors for Boys and Girls High School. Got a survival award because I had a best friend by the name of June James, who was my mentor, best friend. Taught me how to rhyme. I used to steal his raps when he used to be asleep in class. I didn't know what weed was. I didn't know what nothing was. I knew what beer was, but I didn't know what weed was. I wasn't into it. But when I took that boy's weed, that boy, he found me. He was like, yo, where's such and such at? Found out what period of class I went to. He was right there. Slew foot, peace of love, King. You know what I'm saying? He was right there. Talking about, yo, you got my thing, man? I was like, nah. And he saw it in my middle pocket. He was like, yo, that's it right there. He didn't fight me or nothing. Good dude. Rest in peace, June James. Until this day, I spell his name like the month, but with an H. So when I used to do that in high school, the teachers used to say, why are you putting the H in front of June? And when I explained to them that was my friend, they all took a look at it and they found out who he was. And they were like, oh, snap. And they gave me credit for all that time. You know what I'm saying? So what I want to say is it's possible. Mm-hmm. So what you do is study real estate. The reason why I'm telling you about real estate, I'm gonna tell you what these Caucasians, these Caucasoids, these colonizers, these pilgrims, these whoever you want to call them. They living rent free for the rest of their life, and they giving their kids the homes with a different renovation on top of renovation. So I'm telling you now, as an age I am, 47,000 years old. I'm telling you, 47,000 years ago, they didn't tell us that. I'm telling you that now in the future. Get in real estate. Get into real estate. Get into real estate the best way you know how. I wish I could. I still got time, but you got the great time. So you do it and watch how your life turn out. Okay? Flip houses, kid. Okay? Because either you got a wicked jump shot or you on the block selling crack rocks. So which one you want, kid? Which one you want? You want the ballot or you want the bullet? Which one you want? I hope you will want the ballot. Okay? Because honestly, Trump is still president. Mike Pence fucked that whole deal up. This is a whole scam by the peoples of such and such, man. You understand? This is the fake news that the man was telling you about. I want to ask you, why did you think they put him back on Twitter? I'm going to tell you why they put him back on Twitter. They put him back on Twitter to tell you the truth. Elon Musk bought it for my man, I think his name was Jack Daniels, something like that. Jack Daniels, something like that, the owner of that situation. So, to keep it honest with you, get into real estate. And also, Donald Trump won that presidency, man. I don't want to hear you say he didn't win. He won that fair and square, man. Now, Mayor Adams is doing so much to uplift the LGBTQ community. He want to renovate their whole situation. Mayor Adams, now I'm starting to think about you. That we put the wrong person. You're not the politician I voted for. Because if I did vote for you, you wouldn't be doing this. See, this is why Jermaine Williams need to be the governor. But you backing Kathy Hochul, who gave out so much money to the immigrants. And yet, you didn't ask her to tell, what about the black people? They charging the dude for Buffalo a hate crime now. Will that be enough to get our crime bill? See, you looking for Angela Staton King. Her husband told her to fall back. Her information is so valuable. Her husband told her to. Mr. King told Mrs. King of modern day times, which is Angela Staton King, and Mr. King, her husband, told her to fall back. It's been 2 weeks since we ain't heard nothing from her. She could be on vacation. But then again, she seen how dumb these niggas is still acting. I'm picking up what she put down. I may not drop it like how she dropped it, but I'm going to drop it how I need to drop it. You understand what I'm saying? Me and my boy, we're going to drop it the way we need to drop it. You understand? Because you out there playing the fucking donkey. You out there playing the donkey. And I feel bad because I got to say that you my brother, you my sister with low education. And the education you worrying about is what's on the next YouTube channel. The next stupid nigga talking dumb about some celebrity gossip. Here it is. We running on low shortage on everything because the immigrants done got us. They forgot we built this country. So, without further ado, let's find out why they got it labeled the way they got it labeled. Because we got free in June 19th in 1865, supposedly, when the man told them no more slavery. So, let's see if I can get this straight from the peoples who didn't know what was going on. Because I kind of not knowing what was going on either. Until I said, yo, what the heck is going on? So I sat down and found out what was going on. Okay? And just get into real estate, man. Okay? So this is what I was checking out. And this is what you're going to check out along with me right here on My TV channel.
Number 3, the Juneteenth order.
The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. And the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between an employer and hired labor.
You can imagine the burden lifted from these people, the men and the women, the children that knew that they were child property, and now understanding that they were free. But the question that was lingering was, what did freedom look like?
The slaves built this country.
They had a sense of who they were. They very quickly built a sense of community.
To what degree have we actually achieved the absolute freedom that Juneteenth promised?
Ignoring these painful histories doesn't mean that they don't still influence us.
We stand on the shoulders of those that came before us, and we need to honor their memory by telling their story.
You better.
Juneteenth, 1865 to
Juneteenth.
2021.
1865,
Galveston,
2022.
Texas, place known for tourism and quick getaways. But it's the history which happened here that impacts us all today.
African slaves were brought here on ships in the 1800s. But even after the slave trade ended, slavery here did not.
It was 1865, June 19th, now known as Juneteenth, when Union soldiers arrived and told slaves they were free.
It came 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln announced slavery had ended in the United States.
2 years after. Listen, pay
We
attention.
should remember this important date, June 19, 1865, represents the evolution of our country to a more perfect union. We were not perfect in 1528, 1619, 1776, 1865, or even the day in 2021, but we're moving hopefully to a more perfect union.
Juneteenth is directly related to the history of the Civil War and the emancipation of enslaved people in the Confederacy. Juneteenth is important for Texas because that is when enslaved Texans learned they were free and that the Confederacy had fallen.
So we're standing in the 2200 block of the Strand Historic District in Galveston. This was the heart of the commercial district, and at one time
Was the largest city in Texas.
the largest enslaver also lived here in Galveston. They owned 7 plantations, 4 in Brazoria County, 2 in Matagorda County, and 1 in Fort Bend.
Texas was a safe haven for slavery. They did what they called the running of the slaves. That was basically moving their slaves to Texas because there was no Union presence in Texas.
When Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, he knew that that would not immediately end slavery, and it didn't. And the reason is fairly simple. The Confederate States of America had formed its own country. They elected their own president. Confederate states printed their own money, which is why the Confederacy and the United States went to war. The United States' goal at the beginning of the war was just to restore the Union. The first war goal was not to emancipate the enslaved population.
And there were all these myths and stories about what happened and why it took 2.5 years for the word to reach Texas. Plantation owners in Texas were well aware of the Emancipation Proclamation, but they ignored it. What they cared about was maintaining the agrarian economy in Texas, and that was solidly based on cotton. And to maintain that, they needed slave labor. General Gordon Granger was on his way to Texas. Most of the Texas authorities had a pretty good idea what he was coming to Texas to do. Granger was in Texas for about a month. He sent his troops,
There were white soldiers and black soldiers.
plantation to plantation, making the announcement.
Those black soldiers are people who especially helped shift the Union war goals from a war to restore the Union into a war of emancipation. It was personal for them.
They went over to the old Custom House on 20th Street to the Courthouse Square, from the Courthouse Square to the Colored Church on Broadway, which was Reading Chapel.
Some of the dock workers were among the first to get the word, and so the celebrations began.
Give us a sense of what it must have been like for slaves on Juneteenth when they heard that message.
You know, that was something that was almost like going to heaven.
The celebrations, just to be so excited to taste that freedom.
The initial celebrations, there would be prayer services looking back at our journey in this country and what we had to endure in bondage. And the people who never lived to see that day, I think it's inescapable not to remember those people. The transatlantic voyage, the Middle Passage, people jumping off ships to avoid the treatment that they would have to endure.
Well, old Marshall didn't tell you over sleep.
He didn't tell you that?
No, he didn't tell you. I think now they said they wait them 6 months after that. 6 months. And turn them loose on the 19th of June. That's why, you know, they celebrate that day. Colorful. Celebrate that day.
One of the quotes that I'm most fond of is from a former slave named Felix Haywood. Slavery could make you free, but it couldn't make you rich, because a lot of slaves thought that now that they were free, they would be rich, just like the white man.
You think about the elation, the trepidation of enslaved people not knowing what the future holds and being enslaved and bondage being lifted from their backs.
And there was one narrative about one slave who got the word, and his sister said, brother gave a whoop and ran away, and I never saw him again.
Was the South ready to free slaves? No, we know that.
Even though the order indicated enslaved were free, if you look at the last sentence, it gives some instructions of what they can and cannot do.
The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere.
When you're told you're free, you're thinking that, oh, I can live my life. But it wasn't like that.
On one hand, you were free by name, but the actual reality of freedom, you were not fully experiencing it.
There were a lot of very frightened former slaves, and a lot of them stayed on the plantation.
They laid the bricks in the downtown area here where we stand on many of these buildings. Not only laid the bricks, but made the bricks.
Just off Galveston's bustling Broadway Street is Ashton Villa, built in 1859 by James Monroe Brown, a loyalist to the Confederacy, dubbed an honorary colonel. Brown was also a wealthy banker, architect, and mason who designed what's believed to be Texas' first all-brick house, a palace with bricks, all laid by slaves.
You hear it. We working.
Anywhere you read, they will tell you that, slaves did all the work for this. They had to follow what the contractor was either telling them or showing them in order to do it. And look at this place. It's beautiful.
All of the intricacies and the detail that still stand today. It's amazing.
1859, one of the few buildings that withstood the 1900 storm.
Ashton Villa was saved from demolition in 1970. The historic home, now an event space, is operated by the Galveston Historical Foundation and home to the island's annual Juneteenth celebration.
– 'Commercial. back.
They could leave the farm, they could leave the plantation, and they did, because so many emancipated people no longer wanted to work in agriculture because it reminded them of enslavement. For many people, the draw was labor, the opportunity to earn wages.
Working to pay off debt. The debts were never paid off.
Never
There
paid
were a
off.
lot of things that still kept the free people
Suppressed.
suppressed. And that's why a group of them ended up in your hometown in Houston. So they marched to Houston.
The black population of Houston boomed. They began to build homes in the part of Houston known as Fourth Ward. Houston was divided into 6 different wards at the time. And so the land in that area of Fourth Ward happened to be very low and flood prone. It wasn't land that was coveted by white Houstonians at the time.
When you look at the bricks of Freedmanstown, that brick is a symbol of foundation. That brick was a symbol of hope. The brick was theirs. They made the brick, they formed the brick, shaped the brick, they laid the brick. They stood on the brick.
Iconic housing of Freedmanstown was the shotgun house. There was a door in the front and then a door in the back. And people would joke that if you shot a gun, the bullet would travel all the way through without hitting anything.
The legendary Jack Yates, this is the land where he lived, and right next door to him was his son, the printer Rutherford B.H. Yates. The first time I walked along these bricks, I was very emotional. This is where my people decided that they would survive. These are 8-pound bricks that were double baked. And the significance of these bricks is that it has that beautiful red color of the clay that was here. And the fact that they are still here today is a testament to their strength, a testament to their craftsmanship and their skill.
Oh, these are original. I reside here in Freedmanstown. I was born in Freedmanstown, probably conceived in Freedmanstown. And this is a home that has been passed down through our family. I'm like the 5th generation. And the family operated a ice business and just drove through the community selling blocks of ice.
They did their best to gain property and to support their communities.
The wards in Houston functioned a little bit like small towns. 3rd Ward develops a black community. 5th Ward develops one early. The black community of 3rd Ward begins to develop around what we today call Emancipation Avenue, but that back then was Dowling Street, which was actually the name of a Confederate. Dowling is really the center of old black 3rd Ward. And one of the reasons for that is the creation or the purchase of Emancipation Park. And it's the first public space owned by black people in the state of Texas.
With newfound freedom came new challenges, including the fight to be seen as equal.
Freed men and women did more than survive. They built a legacy.
And it is right here, Emancipation Park.
In Houston's historic 3rd Ward.
Emancipation Park was always a place to celebrate.
2 black church congregations fundraised to buy the park. For them, the memory of Juneteenth would have been very fresh. They were someone else's property less than a decade earlier.
I'm the great-great-granddaughter of Jack Yates. He was instrumental in purchasing Emancipation Park, where the free slaves celebrated Juneteenth.
One of the most famous families in Reconstruction era Houston were the Yates family.
He was free. However, his wife and children weren't. So he came to Texas and entered back into slavery so that he could be with his family.
They were brought here to continue to be slaves.
Once freedom came again, he knew what that tasted like. He knew what that felt like. So he took his family and moved to Houston to start a brand new life.
Jack Yates actually began helping and teaching and helping them to learn, because at that time, slaves weren't supposed to read or write.
He was a wage laborer as his day job, and at night preached near the Buffalo Bayou in Houston. And then gradually they were able to build their own church.
When God was real.
I'm a member of Antioch Missionary.
Now these black
Baptist
churches
Church
is
and
doing
have been
something
all my
different.
life. That was the first church that he started, but there were many other churches that he started, including Bethel in Houston.
It is that spirit, it is that zeal, it is that determination that he and others poured into the foundations when they built this church. So when you talk about World War I, our soldiers went off to fight. When they came home, Antioch was able to train and cross-train ex-veterans in masonry work, in carpentry work, and really help these ex-soldiers to find jobs and to provide homes for their families, education for their children. It was these very women from this very church who taught other women how to vote.
So many great people have been here and have been inspiring and galvanizing the community.
When I was growing up in Houston, I knew the name Yates because it was the name of a high school, Jack Yates High School in 3rd Ward, the first black school in Houston. For a while, had just been called Houston Colored High School. As the black community spreads and grows in other parts of the city, you need more schools. So when a second high school is established in Houston in 3rd Ward, it's named after Jack Yates.
A massive mural in Galveston's tourist-heavy Strand district depicts the long journey to absolute equality.
Expand the narrative of Juneteenth to tell a more full story of our shared American history. The things that had been invisible are becoming visible, and the stories that have been hidden are being discovered.
Galveston Historical Foundation member and Hitchcock-born businessman Sam Collins made it his business to have Galveston's history on display. I met with him at the mural, an art installation that Sam wanted to use to paint a better picture of Juneteenth, giving it depth, dating it back to centuries before the emancipation of slaves. Artist and activist Reginald Adams brought the vision to life with detailed vignettes featuring historic figures.
And then he moves through the Middle Passage, the enslaved Africans being sold by other Africans. Harriet Tubman is an iconic female image on the mural. Then you have Abraham Lincoln, the Emancipation Proclamation.
The soldiers have a very prominent place within this mural. There are more soldiers than anyone else here on the mural, it seems like.
The United States colored troops represent 75% of the Union forces that came into Texas. Nowhere in the history books, when I was in elementary, junior high, high school, or even college, did anybody teach me that colored troops helped bring the message of freedom here.
Just beyond the mural and at the end of the same lot, side of the old Osterman building and where General Granger signed the orders and dispersed the troops to post them, is the Juneteenth historical marker from the Texas Historical Commission.
And I thought, how can that be? One of the most historic events in American history didn't have a subject marker.
Sam Collins spent 2 years fundraising and organizing efforts to secure one.
One of the things that I've worked to do is not to take away from what has already been told, but to add to it. This corner has now been transformed into an outdoor classroom. We're going to use technology to teach this history through augmented reality. Point their smartphone at the mural using the Uncover Everything app, And videos will pop up to expand the story so that they can learn more.
My girl Harriet and showing all the things that Black people have been going through and be able to get the shackles off.
It all came together to create this beautiful mosaic of historians, artists, technology, visitors, tourists, people. All of that creates a beautiful picture of the expansion of knowledge, information, the history, and a lot of times they don't talk about that in the history class. So we got to get them in the picture, not just him by himself. There we go.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. Smoking weed is not haram. And first and foremost, I don't deal with anything that deals with selling my peoples into slavery. You and I both know that Islam was the biggest slave traders. You and I both know that Islam stole everything from the African descent. You and I both know that the Middle East is not the Middle East, it's Northeast Africa. So don't you come here talking about some Arab religion. That ain't even your religion. They don't even care nothing about you. They still selling their stuff in the stores. They still doing their thing. They won't even give you a ticket to Mecca to touch the dirty Kaaba that's built on mud. So who do you think I should follow? Them or my ancestors? I think I should follow my ancestors, brother. When I tried to deal with Islam, they tried to hide the truth. The truth to the fact that they are fucking slave what they did. I don't want to represent that no more, man. I represent Pan-Africanism, man. Marcus Garveyism, man. Okay? I'm God myself, what the man behind me told me. We ain't dealing with no religious books. The man who wrote God, you need to find him. The man who created God, the man created God. In our world of time, we had spirituality, man. We ain't had this spookism. So don't come to me with this Quran work. I'm not none of that. I'm man by nature. I don't believe in none of that stuff no more that deals with got us into this situation. I'm not praying to nobody God, man. I don't care what you think, how you think. It ain't for me. It ain't did nothing but gave me suppression mentally, physically, and spiritually. I call on the ancestors and the Most High. That's bigger than Allah. That's bigger than some old something that you claim. We got the ancestors. We got Egypt, son. I got hieroglyphics that tell me who I am. I got hieroglyphics that tell me who I am. I'm the writing on the walls of Egypt, son. I don't want to hear you tell me about somebody that I ain't never seen before. And every goddamn Arab is considered to be what the color they are. And then the dark-skinned Arabs that's running around, what they do? Suppressing the minds of the peoples, man. Egypt is older than Islam, man. The people of Egypt is older than Islam, man. My God been here before Allah that you claiming, man. My God been here before Allah. The words sound good. Arm, leg, arm, head. It sound beautiful to use it in the terminology on how the Father taught us. But it wasn't no spookism, son. Today is knowledge God all being born to build and destroy. I'm here to destroy that what you think that is good, that ain't good no more. What's good is use your mind. Use your ancestors. Go back to your history and what I'm showing you that right now until you started being what you call it. The Asians are not one of no oldest people, man. Stop telling the peoples these lies, man. The color of my skin was the oldest people, man. Stop it, man. My book of life told me Buddha ain't been here. They like the same old as Christianity. Islam and our peoples that dealt with it right way is older than the sun, moon, and stars, B. Don't come here and say no Asians are older than the Afro-Americans. Don't say that. Because ain't no Asians ain't go through what we went through on the Atlantic and Middle Passage slave trade. See, you messed up. You messed up. I don't know who you is. I don't know how old you are. Don't even know your name. But you're not gonna come here and tell me what's haram. What's haram is that the people's what you saying is haram. What's haram is that they won't do the right thing. That's haram. Okay, what I'm doing is very much allowed, brother. I'm giving out Black history. What you want me to do? Yell out some damn them sound like roosters, broken records. The day I found out that they didn't love Bilal the way they love Bilal, and the day I found out that the dark-skinned Bilal starting to change colors, that's when I gave up on Islam. That's when I gave up on Islam. So let's get back to work.
Starting with the marker, and now this mural.
Hopefully,
Damn,
individuals
crazy,
will
brother.
wake up a desire for self-discovery and discovery of history that maybe was not taught in the classroom. So now they come to the outdoor classroom.
Yeah, Most High is the greatest. Did God save? Did Allah go over there and save those Africans? Did Allah go save Juneteenth? Huh? Did all those prayers and everything work out for those peoples over there? I don't think so. So you want me to keep my head down while you keep chopping off the other people's heads and ravaging and enslaving our country? And all I got to do is be on the Musella to keep praying. Yeah. Man, you shut the F up. You shut the fuck up with that bullshit. My peoples is in goddamn slavery going through hell, and you want us to submit to some phony ass God? You must be crazy, B. That ain't helped us all these years. And you still want us to believe the Son of Man been searching for that for 6 million years. We ain't found. We come to realize that we are God. Whoever speaks for God is the man that's speaking for God. Ain't nothing haram, brother. This came from my country. See, that's why I don't deal with Islam. It's too much spookism. How you gonna tell me something is haram and it came from my culture? Massa Musa was the richest Muslim, black Muslim, if you want to get technical. They don't want to talk about Massa Musa. He was bigger than this somebody you was talking about named Muhammad. And Muhammad's supposed to be so sacred. Every goddamn Muslim I know name is Muhammad. And if you look at a black man, if I was to go in there and tell him my name is Muhammad, they'd look at me like I'm on cocaine. Yo, what's your name? Yo, my Ishmi. Ishmi Abdul. Not even Abdul. Ishmi Muhammad. My Ishmi. Oh, Ishmi Muhammad. That's the Arab. My Ishmi. Oh, Ishmi? Ishmi Muhammad. You mean Ahmed? No, not Ahmed. Muhammad. No, Ahmed. No, I ain't no fucking Ahmed. I said my fucking name is Muhammad. Why I can't have Muhammad? Huh? Why I can't have it? Oh, you an Arab, you can have it. Get out of here, man. Keep all that fake history to yourself, brother. Keep all that fake history to yourself, man. That ain't got nothing to do with the plight of black people to this day. Islam ain't do nothing but suppress the peoples of Afro-American and colored descent. We go to Sudan right now, the Muslims over there going crazy. You go to Afghanistan, the Muslims going crazy. It ain't no peace in that piece of shit of religion. It ain't no peace in that piece of shit of religion. You know why? Because every fucking Ramadan come around, it's a fight. How can it be a fight and we praying and fasting for the person that we said we fasting for? You're a fucking liar. Can't deal with you no more. When I picked up Islam, that's all I kept hearing. Why is they fighting on the month of Ramadan? Every Ramadan is a fucking war. Every Ramadan. They don't talk about nothing else during the month or during the month. But soon as Ramadan come and they say, hey, it's the big fast for the Muslims, it's war. So somewhere down the line, your hadith is twisted, brother. And we all knew that some information getting put all over the world is distorted anyway. Okay? Russia don't want to tell us about the Black Madonna that's sitting over there. Russia don't want to tell us about those black Russians. I'm fading in and out. Russia don't want to tell us about nothing. They don't want to tell us about the Black Madonna. They don't want to tell. They just want you to keep being suppressed with your shit that you telling me. I used to love Islam. Don't get me wrong. I started out with those good beloveds. I still hold on to some of the natural roots, especially dealing with the 5% God's nation and God's and nerve. I'd rather take their information better than going to the mosque and sitting there listening to a bum ass imam who's fornicating. Going to listen to a bum ass imam who's stealing money. Going to deal with a bum ass imam who ain't looking out for nobody but his own fucking kind. How I know? I dealt with it. I got it tattooed on my skin. My family is that. When I broke up out of it, my family tried to look at me like I was on cocaine. When I told them that this, that, the third, we all woke them up. I'm going to tell you again. You ain't learned nothing until you came to Timbuktu. You ain't learned nothing. Them people was desert dwellers. What did the General Sarah Sultan say? There was vagabonds. What did General Sarah Sultan said? He said they was vagabonds. They didn't even have a printing press. How the hell you gonna write something and say we supposed to believe in something? You ain't even had a printing press. Rome had it. That's your daddy. Think I want to believe in a religion that goes to Rome, who deals with all sorts of idolatry? You crazy. That's what made me think. Thank you, General Sarah Sultan Seti. The general. You cracker-tosis motherfuckers. You Arab-tosis motherfuckers. I don't like none of y'all. Don't get me wrong. It's some that's cool. But I'm going to keep it real. They ain't none of them ain't cool. I got a chance to get them off the face of the earth. I'll do my best. Just like I want to get that other race up out of here. I want to get that other race up out of here that's suppressing the people's dealing with rent, landlord and business, and just controlling of the judicial system themselves. But you in the bed with the Jew, Arab. That's why I can't mess with your religion. You in the bed with the Jew. Judaism ain't nothing but another form of Islam. Islam ain't nothing but another form of Judaism. And they all falls under the Christianity brand. I get my lessons from Egypt, man. I get my lessons from Egypt, where we taught you how to pray, and you stole it from us and made it into Salat. We had the original Salats. I ain't gonna let y'all niggas come here no more on my page talking that Islam bullshit no more. That shit is for suckers. It ain't did nothing but suppress the minds of the black people and ain't get us nowhere. It ain't get us nowhere but slavery. Islam was the first slave traders, man. You think I want to deal with something like that? Islam started slave trade, man. I didn't know that till Seti told us. You think I want to represent something like that? I'm sorry I got it the way I got it today. But our language is what made me feel assured about myself, because we was the first ones to deal with calligraphy. You ain't know how to write, Arab. You ain't know how to read, Arab. You ain't know how to dress, Arab. You ain't know how to smell good, Arab. You ain't know who God was, Arab. You had to go to Egypt to find out who God was, Arab. Stop it, Five. You playing with the God man over here, kid. You ain't playing with no phony nigga over here, B. No, I hate bad information. I don't hate nobody. I just hate bad information and bad people who give out information, no matter what color you is. I don't hate nobody. Them days of hating the white man is over. Them days of hating the Jew man is over. Them days of hating the black man is over. I just hate bad information. That's what I hate, my brother from Russia. Okay? And I'm sorry I had to let you know what goes on in our mind. You wanted to know. I am not going to be subjected and no more slave to no religion that don't accept the Afro-American. Okay? I don't represent nothing that don't care about the black man and the black woman and the black child. I don't want to represent none of that shit. All I see is a destruction. All I see is a separation. All I see is a different way of conquering exactly what they did. Kept our heads down while they was swinging around. They kept our heads down while they was swinging around. They kept our heads down, talking to God, didn't see God while they were swinging around. Then when we lift our heads up and say, hey, we won ours because God, we prayed. Get out of here. So you get it. I seen the different, I seen it. That man right there, Clarence 13X. Peace. Clarence 13X told me. See, Malcolm X, aka El-Haj Shabazz. See, Islam died when Malcolm died. I should have told you that. Islam died when Malcolm died. See, when Malcolm X died, Islam died. Nobody wanted to deal with that shit no more. Nobody wanted to deal with that shit no more. When Malcolm X, aka El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz, when he died in 1965, that's when Islam died. So what you hear today is some old bullshit that's suckering you up to get your money, just like how all pastors do to get that new Range Rover or that new Cadillac truck. You ain't gonna come here and fool me, brother. They are goat herders. They are vagabonds. You ain't gonna come here and tell me that I done did so much praying to Allah and the Muhammad, the messenger, to wake up the next following day. I couldn't get a wife in the masjid. I had to give her dawah. What, 57 verses of the Quran? Another 57 verses equals 114 chapters. Are you sick in your head? See, when El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz died, aka Malcolm X died, that's when Islam left. I didn't want to deal with, because you already told me when he went there, you poisoned him. When he went to give the information out, you didn't want him there. Then when he tried to ask why the blacks is suppressed and why is there so many light-skinned Egyptians? Why there's so many other light-skinned dark Caribbeans that ain't dark no more? Oh, religion separated that bullshit. I was a Shiite, he was a Sunni, he was a Mufti, he was a Sufi. You niggas is sick. You got crackatosis. You got Islamic tosis, nigga. You ain't paying attention to the schools and the lessons of the thoughts of the General Sarasu. I'm picking up what he put down. I'm telling you niggas, stop doing that shit. Come back home to Garveyism. A Jamaican, West Indian, a true Jamaican. Because I don't know what these Jamaicans doing today. I don't know what these true Jamaicans is doing today. I tell a motherfucking Jamaican right now, my name is Marcus Garvey. Honorable Marcus Garvey. He look at me like I'm on a new sugar cane from Jamaica. I tell that motherfucker my name is Marcus Messiah Garvey. He looks at me like I'm on a new sugar cane from Jamaica. You must be sick. You gotta be. You gotta be. Yeah, the title said Fat Her Day, Weekend, Father, Fat Her. That's where it came from. The lessons of the gods and nurse. You coming up in here telling me about what's haram. What's haram is that they got them oils lined up and they letting it loose. And Arabs, them Arabs. Okay? You ain't telling us how Arab was a slaughterable way of trying to send that bullshit message out to the peoples of Northeast Africa and took over them when they was in their most vulnerable state. You ain't want to tell them how Islam did that, but you want to call it Mecca, Middle East. That shit ain't nothing but Northeast Africa, nigga. Who you talking to? That shit ain't nothing but Northeast Africa. I'm trying to teach you about Juneteenth. We got 29 more minutes to go. I gotta find it. We got 29 more minutes to go.
It's such a...
And here it is. You want to talk about something. Is that haram? What's haram is what you said is haram. The word you said is haram. You asking the black man who got the most headaches and problems in America today. You think we got time to be praying to some God of yours?
Some of the early Juneteenth celebrations were marked by pageantry, flowers, and people riding in these very elaborate coach setups.
Regional and local black newspapers celebrating the day. You'll see announcements about picnics that are related to the holiday.
A lot of people for those celebrations dressed up in their Sunday best. They would just be joyful. There would be parties, church services, in a lot of the communities. Whites didn't want to recognize those celebrations. If some of those former slaves had jobs, they couldn't get the day off to celebrate. A lot of the city officials said, well, you can't have your celebration in the city. And so that would push those celebrations out away from the city in rural settings and pastures, meadows, groves, wherever. They went with the flow.
I guess my earliest memories of celebrating Juneteenth would be when I was a child. Juneteenth was always a big celebration in our community.
Eventually, you'll see the establishment of parades. We do in Houston, we do have a couple of parades. In fact, Juneteenth, Queen, King.
Family get-togethers, community get-togethers. You would have barbecue, watermelon,
ribs, and hot sausage,
red soda pop. Those were the staples. You had to have all of that on Juneteenth. You must have that barbecue.
In recent years, Juneteenth celebrations continue to include parades and music, but most importantly, a focus on the food. And one restaurant that continues to provide Juneteenth meals, even amidst the pandemic, is Lucille's.
Feeding all the people they can, this fine dining Houston establishment, home to a culinary artist carrying on the family's legacy of African-American excellence in gastronomy. Beautiful. This Museum District restaurant is Lucille's. It is where the past meets the present on a plate. The restaurant itself is named after owner and executive chef Chris Williams' great-grandmother, Lucille B. Smith.
Often noted as Texas's first African-American businesswoman. She created the first instant hot roll mix in the history of this country, which is a recipe that Pillsbury borrowed to create their empire. This is verified by the Chicago Tribune in 2014. She was the first national African-American food editor for Sepia Magazine, which is now Ebony Magazine. Her client list included everybody from LBJ to the Roosevelts, Martin Luther King, to Muhammad Ali, to Joe Louis, all points in between.
Chef Williams continues the family legacy, having hosted President Biden. But it is not just the powerful for whom he hosts or prepares food for.
So we provide service to all the historically black neighborhoods, from Sunnyside, the 3rd Ward, the 5th Ward, to Acres Home.
Having founded the nonprofit Lucille's 1913, the year his great-grandmother birthed her catering business, and also the same year marking the 50th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation.
At our peak, we were doing 1,800 meals a day.
So I had a pork shoulder that I braised for about 4 hours.
Allows them to play with a ton of different ingredients.
This Juneteenth will prepare more meals.
The barbecue chicken, the beans.
On top of the already 250,000 meals served.
And that's what we're working on right now for the menu for today. Getting ready to feed the people of Houston.
Delivering dignity and preserving history.
The restaurant does pay homage to her culinary freedom and creativity as a chef.
With fresh elevated food.
It's exactly what we do over today at Lucille's. The Southern cuisine with global influences.
The word Reconstruction sounds good, and it started out well-intentioned, but it didn't stay, quote-unquote, Reconstruction, did it?
No. When we think about the period of Reconstruction, particularly here in Texas, we always have to think about the turmoil around politics.
The Democratic Party was conservative. The Republican Party was liberal. 1870 15th Amendment is what makes Black men's right to vote constitutional. And this changes the political landscape of parts of the South that had large Black populations. Black men start voting other Black men into office. Some places had Black sheriffs. So this immediately changes the politics of the South. So the Ku Klux Klan arises as the violent wing of the Democratic Party.
We're familiar.
All right. So here we go. The Democratic Party supported the Ku Klux Klan. You heard them. Now, this was told to us a long time ago from General Sarah Sootensetti and from Young Pharaoh. I remember Young Pharaoh. See, I'm a Republican. I want to deal with the liberal state of the minds and the public of the people. A Democrat, that sounds like somebody that's demonizing the peoples to get them to do the things that they want them to do. Now we got the idea on what we need to do. It's either one or two things. You can go independent. But in this time and age, you want to stay a Republican because you for the Republic. You for the public. That means you liberal. You want the peoples to be liberal, freedom, not the way they want us to be in today, which the Democrats got us right now. Let's get back to work.
KKK, but there were a number of white vigilante groups that existed during this time. They terrorized African Americans.
By the early 1900s, the Black community had already established itself with neighborhoods, businesses, and schools, but Blacks still weren't considered as equal. With segregation and Jim Crow laws, they were still being treated like second-class citizens.
Segregation laws restricted every public space where Southerners could possibly make contact. When we say Jim Crow law, we're referring to legal segregation. Boston creates segregation laws in order to separate Black and white passengers on city streetcars in the 1840s. People in Boston started to refer
Boston, Massachusetts. That's for you, Yasana Hartfield. Boston, Massachusetts.
to the Black section of streetcars as the Jim Crow section. They did that because Jim Crow referred to a popular minstrel figure. Early on, it was white performers, typically white men, who would blacken their faces using burnt cork, but Jim Crow was the most popular blackface minstrel character. So popular that many white people in the United States began to identify the name Jim Crow with Black people.
Terrible.
Here in Houston, you really can't think about Jim Crow laws without thinking about the 24th Infantry, African-American soldiers who found themselves here at Camp Logan and found themselves the victims of police brutality and Jim Crow laws and segregation.
Right, you're absolutely right. In the summer of 1917, the United States enters World War I. The U.S. military was still segregated. The military was constructing a training facility called Camp Logan.
So when these 700 white soldiers show up in Houston, Jim Crow is alive and well. And you got to remember, it's a new thing. And these soldiers had fought in the Spanish-American War and San Juan Hill. They fought in the Philippines. They weren't used to being treated as second-class citizens.
It all came to a head that August when Houston police officers were accused of attacking and killing one of the soldiers. Black soldiers of Camp Logan then marched from what's now Memorial Park to the city of Houston.
This was a push against Jim Crow authority.
Mutiny and rioting ensued.
It was a strike against police brutality.
16 white people were killed, mostly civilians. 4 black soldiers died. The deadly encounter led to the soldiers' court-martial, the largest murder trial in U.S. history.
I saw the photograph of the trial. That blew my mind. Here are these 63 black soldiers surrounded by white soldiers with fixed bayonets on their rifles, and captured said the largest murder trial in American history. And I had never heard anything about this. Nothing.
In the end, 19 soldiers were hanged, and all but 8 of 118 soldiers charged were convicted for their part in the Houston riot of 1917.
The police force of southern cities would send certain police officers to patrol black communities.
Just like you see today, the police officers will send certain white officers into the black communities. Let's find out what happened.
Slave patrols in many parts of the South literally become police forces whose job it is to then police newly formed black communities.
Plantations ultimately turned to prisons, with slave labor giving way to prison labor all across Texas, including Sugar Land.
This building is actually 80 years old. It was originally a prison and part of the Texas prison system.
It was an extension of the Central State Prison Farm. The big brick building, known as 2 Camp, opened in 1939.
It was a prison population of color, primarily African American, some Hispanic.
The inmates worked the fields of the state-run farm. An inmate recalled that upon arriving at 2 Camp in 1960, he was immediately ushered out into the fields to pick cotton. At the end of a grueling day, workers would return to the dormitory, where life was often just as hard.
They lived in very close quarters, actually in very hot conditions and very cold conditions.
Its occupants are mostly children now, but for 30 years, this structure housed inmates.
Nelson Mandela said, "No one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones." That's Nelson Mandela, the ancestor. We call on him today to give us more solitude and courage. Ashe.
Did you know the Freedom Tree in Missouri City is where slaves at the Palmer Plantation were notified they were free? They were told they could continue working the land, but their only form of payment would be a share of their crop. The Freedom Tree is located along Misty Hollow Drive, that's between Glen Lakes and Lake Olympia Boulevards. Walter Moses Burton was a farmer, sheriff, and politician who served 4 terms in the Texas State Senate.
That's who he
Burton
was.
was born into slavery in North Carolina and brought to Texas when he was 21.
Dang.
After emancipation, he bought land in Fort Bend County and was eventually elected the first black sheriff in the country.
Beautiful. That's how black people singing the songs of freedom. The songs of freedom.
No, I'm not. I have tried twice, and I was turned down both times. Lost my job.
You had Jim Crow laws, you had poll taxes, and slowly you see things that are going backwards.
So the first way you see a push against black political organizing is through the Klan. Thousands of people would sometimes show up to watch a crowd of people lynch, burn, and mutilate, in some cases, black bodies. The people who were lynched were usually people who stood up for themselves economically or politically.
So the people who was lynched were the people who stood up for themselves financially, etc., etc. Excuse me. I'm getting tired of this, B. I'm getting tired of this, man. I'm getting tired of this. But what's going to keep me strong in this plight is that I got to keep going. I just got to keep going. Even though I'm tired. Even though I'm tired. Because somebody got to listen. Somebody got to pick up what I'm about to put down and put on so we can pick up together. Somebody got to. It can't be like this all the time. It can't. Let's continue.
Self-styled so-called militias were using violence to subdue Black voters.
So the riots of the George Floyd. So the riots of the Black Lives Matter movement. So the rise of all this stuff that we see today. It's another form of them trying to suppress the Black vote. As we just saw recently, or when we went out there to vote recently. Now, you may not like the views of the person you ain't want to vote for. But I guarantee you one thing though, you wish he was in office right now. You wish Mr. Trump was in office right now. You know why? Because I could trust a person who's from the city of New York, basically. Because he's going to tell me what it is. There's other guys from Delaware, and we all know what's going on out there in them lands and towns after night hours with Black folks. But this the guy you put in office. And he ran right past you again. He ran to different communities. Then he's yelling out for gas prices and oil prices. Cool, no doubt. But what about our crime bill, brother? Joe Biden, what about that crime bill? You charging the brother for Black hate crime, a hate crime. But is that enough? Will that be enough to say, yo, we're going to pass the Black hate crime bill? I need that Black hate crime bill passed, man. So Black people can feel free walking this little bit of earth. Or you still want to suppress us like this little documentary from this Afro-American sister who sent it to me to say, play it on my station. So that's why I came here to do. Play it on this station to let you know what the fuck is you celebrating something for. Huh? What is you celebrating, man? What is you out there laughing and giggling and getting drunk for? Huh? What is you out there laughing and giggling and getting drunk for? Tell me. I want to know. Maybe I want to laugh and get drunk too. If it's positive, if it's about reparation, if it's about saving hip hop. Come on, let me know. I want to laugh too. Oh, you ain't. So the shit you saying to me ain't fucking funny. Not when we going through the shit we going through. Niggas is still wearing wife beaters. I'm here wearing man beaters. And you doing Soapbox Willie giving out the beats. We struggling every night to save the minds and to save hip hop. But what you want to do? You want to run around and listen to gossip. Well, take this gossip and teach some people. Take this gossip and teach some people. See, we can rapidy rap all day. I showed you that. I could rapidly rap all day. I could hip hop all day. Soapbox Willie Beats could be played to infinity. And I could be writing to infinity. But where's the knowledge? Well, today is knowledge, God. The 17th letter of the alphabet is Q. Queen. Peace to the queen. You said your word is bond. You said you would give your life before your word shall fail. That's what you told me. See, you told me that. My word is bond. I took your word as bond. You said you would lose your life before you break your word. That's what you told me. The man right there wrote it. You studied it along with me. Word is bond, God. You told me that. You told me that, Lord. You told me that, Goddess. You told me you love me. Word is bond. That's what you told me. I see that your word got broken. You told me you'll give your life before your word shall fail. That's what you told. I heard that your word is bond. And you said you would give your life if your word was broken. I don't know if you're going to get your life up now because I can't trust you.
By the 1890s, enough violent intimidation had happened that you have white Democrats returning to power in states across the former Confederacy.
So the Democrats is taking over power right now as we see in the office of today. See, my lessons ain't going to fail me. So that insurrection of the White House on January 6th was all about what? What was it really all about? I'm going to tell you what it's all about. It was about us staying liberal, free. Give me liberty or give me death. Straight up. I'd rather be with my ancestors and live free on the other side without having to worry about nothing. I'm Kaze Sose for real from the movie Unusual Suspect. I would take out my whole family in order you won't get them. I'll take out my whole family so you won't get them. Biggie told me too. I'd rather you be with me, Tiana, my daughter. Sort of like Daddy Dearest. She could be with me. To be with this bullshit that you got us going through. I would Kaze Sose my family before I let you get them. Before I let a slave catch my family, I would tell my family, tell grandma, tell uncle, tell Most High. This is the real Abraham sacrifice. I ain't letting you get in the hands of the enemy. I tell you what. You'll be rebirthed again. You'll be reincarnated through another child. In the name of carry on. Don't worry, I'll see you soon. Don't be scared. Because you rather let me do it than the hands of the colonizers. You're going to be in fear. Tired of playing with you, boy. Tired of playing with you, young girl. You ain't up here doing nothing for me. I'm up here rapidly rapping most of the times. Education, partial of the times. And nigga talk from time to time. But for right now, on this time, you got to get this work.
The fact that we're still struggling with attempts to disfranchise voters shows exactly why we have to look at segregation as this multi-pronged attack on equality.
Dr. Martin Luther King's second day of civil rights testing in Selma, Alabama started off smoothly enough. But when the would-be registrants and those who accompanied them arrived at the Dallas County Courthouse, it was a different story.
Segregation was labeled separate but equal, but was far from it. Religious leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Fred Shuttleworth, and Houston's Reverend Bill Lawson began to help in protest against it.
The movement spreads across the South. Students at Texas Southern University especially began to boycott and then gain allies, in some cases from white students from nearby colleges.
13 of them, to be precise. On March 4th, 1960, they marched, but they went to the lunch counters at the Wine Gardens on Alameda, and they sat, and they sat. And so they initiated the civil rights movement in Houston, Texas.
The support and mentorship of Reverend Lawson and other folks was especially significant because in some cases, the older generation sometimes agreed more with the strategies of the NAACP, who were using the courts and using the law. Because it's important to remember that technically sit-ins are illegal.
They know that what they are doing could potentially put them in danger. They're thinking about the injustices that their parents have faced, that their relatives face. They're thinking about the injustice that they themselves are facing in a world that is supposed to be separate and equal, but is everything but equal.
Let's get this work.
Black colleges and universities, their history is related to the fact that our nation was not ready for people of African descent to study with white Americans.
Prairie View A&M is a direct result of Juneteenth. Those individuals who heard that message that day, they went forward with the zeal and the fervor to realize what education could do for emancipated blacks. Most importantly, now you have individuals who could not read, who could not write, that came and got remedial lessons here and could go back out into their communities to be productive people.
I chose TSU because there was a sense of belonging that I felt when I walked on the campus. It felt like family, it felt like home, and it gave me a feeling of purpose.
Now, this girl who's talking, she's standing and laughing with Joe Biden. Should I trust that black sister? Let's listen to her story.
It said that I was destined to be here for a specific reason.
And we know that Prairie View produces productive people. And that's one of the mottos here at the school. And it's very much tied back to that same group, that first generation who came here, who studied, who thrived, and sought to make their communities better.
And as a little girl, to me, the building, Hannah Hall, was colossal. Little did I know that one day I would have the opportunity to teach at this school. This institution has been a beacon of light to people in the community.
When it came to primary education, the Gregory Institute became the high school for Houston's black children in the 1870s. At one point, it was the only high school for black students.
Did you hear that? The only black high school for black Negroes. Amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. I can imagine all information through each line of those bricks. Each brick has an education in it. Each goddamn brick, each intricate decor and how they designed that building has a goddamn education.
In 1871, Harris County had the largest number of black students in school in Texas, with 734 males and 760 females. The Gregory School is now home to the African American Library. After years of fighting and debate, Betsy Ross Elementary became the first public school in Houston to integrate, the year 1960. But even as the Houston School District began to eliminate segregation, there was pushback from white parents, as shown here in a 1970 New York Times article.
And I read the New York Times too.
You know, it's really amazing how this area, this park, has blossomed and transformed in this community.
It is incredible when you think about the history of Emancipation Park. You know, there was a time when this was the only park that Blacks in Houston could come to.
And today we've seen people of all colors here.
All colors, all races, all religions, enjoying the city, enjoying the park together.
Yeah. A park for all.
A park for all.
What do you think your great-grandfather who purchased this property to create Emancipation Park would think of what is happening on this site today?
I'm sure he probably never thought about would this be continued 100 years later, 150 years later. But I think he would be extremely proud to know that the citizens of Houston, Texas have continued to celebrate the Juneteenth.
Emancipation Park remains a pillar in the Black community, just as it did when it opened in 1872. From playgrounds, basketball courts, a theater, and the arts, it celebrates a rich history while educating the next generation. But getting that education in schools has not been easy.
Here we go.
It's just a history that some people are still so uncomfortable talking about.
We always knew what Juneteenth was. The rest of the country did not. Juneteenth isn't taught in American history. Juneteenth isn't taught in our school, in our public school system.
I guess within the last 30 years that I've learned really about a lot about Juneteenth. Attending segregated schools, we just didn't have a lot of information about slavery, and if it was presented, it was presented in such a watered down way. We knew the significance of Galveston to Juneteenth, of the freeing of the slaves.
Juneteenth is so important, and it's funny, I didn't learn about it fully until
The girl who was smiling with Joe Biden, her name is Mariah Campbell.
I got to college, and at this HBCU that I learned about it.
As a former longtime educator, how important is that for students to be presented that information in their general education?
It's America's history. We hear the stories of immigrants coming to the United States. We hear about why they wanted to leave or why they wanted to be here. And everything that happens in the United States is United States history.
All Americans need to understand when and how slaves were freed in the state of Texas.
I know that in my own class, when I'm teaching in the summer, I make sure that we do a focus on Juneteenth and we celebrate the day so that students are aware of the significance of the day and also of the significance of TSU in continuing the message of Juneteenth.
It's a huge problem not teaching youth about the history. When you go back and you say, this didn't happen, then a young person will be like, oh, so what's their problem? That never happened. So then you create more of a division between cultures.
Now, Malcolm X said, education is the passport to future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to who prepare for it today. Education is the passport to future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Our ancestor, beloved Malcolm X, said that. Life in Galveston, Texas.
I think telling our story is very important. So if you only get one perspective all the time, you're just missing all those other shades of meaning, all those other perspectives. The catalyst for my mother writing her book, Island of Color, where Juneteenth started, is that she remembered and found a journal that her grandfather had kept. After he would say his prayers, he would write in this journal. He was writing.
That's what I'm doing right now for my future grandkids. They will find my rap journal. They will figure things out, the code that I left for them in these books that I saved and salvaged. The rest of them got away through floods and idioticness of living. But I managed to get these out that I got right now, that it will be held on till I'm 180. When I'm 180 and I leave this earth at 185, maybe 200, it'll be passed on what's going on to the next generation. This YouTube will still be advanced at that time. You understand? Let's work.
About African American history going back to when he first came here in 1865. I think it's a treasure trove of information. Knowing one's legacy, I think, provides a sense of being grounded, a sense of belonging. It is actually foundational to our entire country because of its history of slavery.
Even though things are better, but there's so much more work to do.
With the George Floyd protests, probably more Americans came together of all races and groups than have come together in this country in a long time. Really, since the Civil Rights Movement, more Americans came together.
The 2020 murder of Houston native George Floyd and the conviction of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin led to global protests and reignited the conversation of police reform.
You saw white, you saw Asian, you saw Hispanic, along with black, screaming at the top of their voice.
So all that didn't get us our crime hate bill. All that didn't get us our bill. All of that didn't get us nothing. Let's finish up our history.
That black lives do matter.
This bill is a bill that will speak to the hearts and minds of those who have been harmed by wrong kinds of policing standards. And quickly, it will end racial profiling. It will provide training for the 18,000 police departments. It will ensure that there is a standard for excessive force, no more. A duty to intervene.
The House of Representatives passed the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act in June of 2020.
And we in June of 2022. We in June of 2022. We a few days before, no, a few days. Yeah, this is June 25th that they got up here displaying their display. June 25th, 2020. And we in June 17th. 2022.
As of June 2021, it has not passed the Senate.
You heard him.
A duty to intervene.
The House of Representatives passed the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act in June of 2020. But as of June 2021, it has not passed the Senate.
There you go. Juneteenth becomes a state holiday in Texas, first state in the U.S. history in 1980. You know how old I was? I was 5 years old in 1980. Get ready to be 6 years old. Let's get back to history.
You remember when Juneteenth became a state holiday in Texas?
Yes, under the direction of State Representative Al Edwards. He worked very hard to get it to become a state holiday.
I'm so delighted to be in Galveston again. I'm overwhelmed by New York people who are willing to.
Her name was, right? Let's get her name.
I'm delighted to be in Galveston again. I'm overwhelmed.
Her name is Opal Lee, grandmother of Juneteenth. She's the grandmother of Juneteenth. Huh? Opal Lee, Miss Opal Lee, grandmother of Juneteenth.
Young people who are willing to help us make Juneteenth a national holiday.
May 31st, 2021, 94-year-old Opal Lee joined by a crowd with the Juneteenth flag in tow.
94 years old.
Doing her part to push for federal recognition of the historic day.
But I'm going to make this 2.5-mile trip. I'm going to keep on walking. I'm going to keep on talking to Juneteenth's a national holiday.
Damn, I love that black sister, man. That's my grandmother, man. 94 years old, B. I'm going to pick up what she put down. Starting right now. I'm tired, man. The instructions was laid out for me easily. I'm just going to take care of self. Self-preservation is my first law of nature. When I take care of self, then you're going to see that I can help others. Because I got to get it together first, man. Okay? It starts with self first. Let's get back to history.
Affectionately known as Fort Worth's grandmother of Juneteenth. She goes across the country every year, walking.
You walked my shoes off last time.
And bringing awareness to the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation.
Now, all the shoe companies, from Nike to the Balenciagas, sent that woman, Miss Opal Lee, the grandmother of Juneteenth. They done sent her the flyest shoes. They done sent her the flyest walking sneakers. They done sent her the flyest Air Max or Vapor Max shoes to walk every year at 94 years old. And we got 94-year-olds that ain't even doing nothing. Going back at 70. And this is a 94. She might be 96 right now. I pray that I know she's still because the ancestors got her. She's going to leave this earth when it become a national holiday. And then she going to the heavens. And me speaking of her being I'm the only somebody talking about her, she going to put me on her list of saying, let that boy come upstairs too and get some of this cornbread. This Texas cornbread. Come on upstairs and get some of this Texas good old smoke, great big old good old food. Come on up here, boy. I heard you down there talking greatly about me. And you said you gonna pick up what I put down. I heard you, young man. I heard you. Let's get back to history.
I'm wanting people to understand that it's just not a festival. There's so many more components to it.
Juneteenth is recognized on the state level in almost every state.
We took 1,500,000 signatures to Congress back in September, and we were so sure that we were on our way.
But the push to make it a federal holiday continues.
I just haven't given up. I just know it's about that time now that we're going to have Juneteenth a national holiday.
This is also the location of the first documented citywide celebration of emancipation that took place in Galveston. Over 800 people started a march at the old Galveston courthouse, and they marched here to the Cullen Church on Broadway, Reedy Chapel Abbey Church.
In 2019, U.S. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee and U.S. Senator John Cornyn authored a bill for a federal study of the Emancipation Trail. It is a proposed 51-mile route from Galveston to Houston, marking the journey of Black families sharing the news of freedom. And it is based on research by Naomi Mitchell Carrier.
It will be a heritage tourism attraction with sites along the way where people can stop and learn the history of those sites, the stories behind them.
I would like to welcome everybody to the oldest Black Baptist church in the state of Texas.
Next steps for becoming a trail includes public input for the various locations, but the COVID-19 pandemic put a hold on it. It is amazing, the history here in our backyard, and it's history you can experience anytime.
From Galveston to Emancipation Park, your journey starts now.
It's more than a hashtag. It's more than you just posting something on social media to recognize it, whether it be volunteering at a local Black organization or just reading about Black culture and Black history. It's important to equip yourself with those resources to make sure that we're all coming together as one people.
My ancestors decided that they were going to build institutions, learned institutions, they were going to build religious institutions where we could worship, and they was going to provide a means for their family. No matter how tethered, no matter how abused.
We have to tell the story. If we forget our history, then our future is not a future at all. It belongs to someone else.